After already being the subject of 2 ethics investigations, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is now in a third. This one surrounds a government contract with the We charity. The We charity that paid both Trudeau's mother and brother to give speeches prior to the Liberals offering them government contracts. And it's not just one. There has been multiple government contracts that have been given to We charity. This is a clear conflict of interest. I'm going to get more into it in a bit here. First, I want to remind you of the other 2 investigations that were done. So this one in 2017, the Aga Khan case. So this is where Trudeau vacationed with the Aga Khan on his private island while Aga Khan was on the board of a company that was lobbying the government at the time.
Justin Trudeau now becomes the first Prime Minister to break Canada's federal ethics laws.
I take full responsibility for this. This was a family vacation that I am responsible for, and I take responsibility.
The forced apology followed the Ethics Commissioner's damning findings that Trudeau violated the ethics code, which has been in place for a decade. The watchdog says the Caribbean trip could be seen as a way to influence the Prime Minister, since the Aga Khan is registered to lobby the government. Trudeau should have also asked permission before accepting that ride on the Aga Khan's private helicopter.
So that first one was shocking alone, that Trudeau couldn't see the obvious conflict of interest of going to somebody's private island that was lobbying their government. But then came the SNC-Lavalin scandal. So I covered this one extensively back in 2019. Let me give you just a brief paragraph here from Global News that kind of summarizes what went on. Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion released a damning report Wednesday that found Trudeau improperly pressured former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould to reach a deferred prosecution agreement with Quebec engineering giant SNC-Lavalin to help the company avoid criminal prosecution on fraud and bribery charges. So, another conflict of interest, and I guess third time's a charm, because here's another one. This centers around the Canadian Student Service Grant. So this is a federal program designed to pay students for volunteer work during the summer. This is going to be offered to the We charity to the tune of $912 million. But last week, they pulled out. This from the National Post. We charity pulls out of $912 million contract with Trudeau government. So the reason that We charity pulled out, even though my assumption is they didn't actually pull out, but it was decided upon that they should no longer go through with this based on what was coming out at the time, because I can't imagine the We charity, based on what we know about them, that they would just leave the opportunity to make a ton of money in the process of doing this. But it came out that we had already received a number of government contracts without any competition from Trudeau. It also came out that the co-founder of the charity was caught saying that Trudeau had called him directly to offer him this contract as well. And it also came out, or it's been obvious, as we've seen it publicly, that Trudeau and his family had attended We charity events a number of times. So because of all those reasons, We charity pulled out, though again, I assume this was discussed behind the scenes and they decided that we couldn't go through with this. But also the charity was set to make $19.5 million to administer this student program. Now we get to the piece of news from today. So in addition to what I just told you, there's also this massive piece that was not revealed prior to this, but Canada Land broke the story. We says it paid $312,000 for 28 speaking events by Margaret Trudeau, the mother of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and $40,000 for 8 events with Alexandra Sasha Trudeau, the PM's brother. These totals include a 20% commission paid to Margaret and Alexandra Trudeau's speaking agency, We says. These admissions contradict an earlier statement that their charity never paid the Trudeau family for speeches and follows the discovery by Canada Land of invoices from the agency addressed to the charity. So this is now an obvious conflict of interest, where members of your family are being paid by the government that you continue handing government contracts to. The conflict of interest at this point it's undeniable. Now, let me show you the statement here from the Prime Minister's office in response to this. So this is from CBC. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office said members of Trudeau's family, quote, engage with a variety of organizations and support many personal causes on their own accord. What is important to remember here is that this is about a charity supporting students. The Canada Student Service Grant Program is about giving young people opportunities to contribute to their communities, not about benefits to anyone else. Of course, this is the way you deflect when you are trying to avoid scrutiny for the obvious conflict of interest. And by the way, I mean, in addition to this, check out this exchange on Twitter. Question: was Justin Trudeau himself ever paid by we when he was on the Speaker's circuit? Althiraj of HuffPost says, I asked the Prime Minister's office this Friday. They would not answer. So the Prime Minister's office would not answer, would not confirm or deny whether they were also paid, whether Trudeau himself was also paid by the We charity. If you can't deny that, what's the assumption here? So it's likely, it's possible more will come out from this if they continue to not answer that question in response to or in the midst of all this going on. Now, in terms of like how I view this and my analysis on all this, Trudeau obviously he grew up very, very privileged and well-connected before he became Prime Minister, meaning that there's more of an opportunity for someone like that who already grows up well-connected and privileged to potentially be in these conflicts of interest. So that isn't, I'm not defending him at all here. I'm actually saying that this is why we should not be putting people of privilege and wealth into positions of power in government. So this is a reminder of who Trudeau is, the family he comes from, his father, Prime Minister. So when you grow up in a world like that, yeah, you're going to be well connected. And it's possible, like we've seen here. I mean, this is the third one now. This is the third conflict of interest. The third we know of. Based on what he's done, his history, and who he's connected with, like, there could be more of these. Don't put people of privilege in positions of power in government. People that we should have representing us should be people that are from unions, are from the community, are teachers, are doctors, scientists. Put people in positions of power in government that have contributed to society in their professions or in various ways, whether it's community building, again, labor unions, whatever it is. People that have communicated in some way to society, to people. Having someone like this in a position of power is just not, clearly is not the way to go. And that also, it's important to be clear here. That also doesn't take away from some of the good that the Liberals have done during the pandemic, even though most of it has been largely influenced by the NDP and at times the Greens. So, I mean, this is just, I don't know. At this point, it's not even surprising that the Prime Minister is involved in another scandal like this. At this point, it's what we've come to expect.